So that is the sound of our Faux subwoofer PA system in the drum room here, with some detuned drums going into it as well. And I kind of came up with this, you know, we've talked in past projects about, especially the Randy Staub mixes, about how Bob Rock did this with Metallica during the Black Album, where they put, you know, giant subwoofers behind the drum set to boost the bass in the room and really give things a lively feel. And they originally did that on Dr. Feelgood from Motley Crue to let Tommy Lee feel like he was in an arena on stage with the subs just blasting every time he hit the kick drum. I've also learned that Dave Jerden did this a bit in his drum tracking in a very similar manner. And also Soundgarden's Super Unknown had a PA system, although Michael Beinhorn thinks they may have just used subwoofers and not the full range of the PA. Tracking engineer Jason Corsaro used to do a very cool thing going back to the 80s, going back to the Power Station album. And I also think Public Image Limited has a really cool example of this, where he detunes the drums and pumps that back out into the live room so that while the drums are being recorded, you've got this deeper ambience happening that's also picked up by the room mics around the drum set. As I mentioned in our Super Unknown video, Jason talked about doing this for Soundgarden as well. You know, I wanted to find a way to simulate this. So we've got two groups happening here. We've got a subgroup and a detune group. The subgroup, let's listen to that first by itself. The subgroup has kick drum, snare drum, and toms feeding it, all on aux sends, or bus sends. And the first thing they're seeing is the Brainworx subsynth, which is based on the old DBX subharmonic synthesizer, and that's what Michael Beinhorn said they used to feed the drums on Super Unknown. So we've got, you see, I'm at 100% mix here. I'm at 51% for the 56 to 80 hertz, 80% for the 24 to 36. Those are the real subs. And then 65% from 36 to 56 hertz. So without that, little light in the ass without it, you know? And then I've got just a simple little EQ3 from ProTools here as my crossover. I've got a 12 dB per octave crossover at about 300 hertz. That's without it. And there might be some instances where you want the full range in there, but for this, I just wanted to go with the subs as Beinhorn described. And now I've got that fader then feeding directly into the Sound City PA fader, which is on its own bus. And the reason I have this on its own fader is because the detune group is also going into it. But for now, we're just hearing the subgroup. I'm on PA live mode here with a C24 in Omni as the close mic, and then a pair of U67s as the far away mics. And I'm not using the middle mics at all here. Without it, almost sounds like an 808. And I'm in reverb mode, but in this case, since we're manipulating the drum sound so much and the actual dry drums are not going to the main mix at all, you could use remic mode. They sound essentially the same here. Normally, anytime you're using this on an aux send, you want to use reverb mode. It's a good rule of thumb. But in this case, you don't really have any phase relationships to worry about because the sound that you're feeding into it, again, is not going to the main mix at all. It's only going into here. So yeah, I don't really hear much, if any, difference between those. And for the individual mics, that's our C24 in Omni. I've got that at about -10. And then the U67s. That's the U67s by themselves. So, nice combination there. Most of the sound is coming from the 67s, with just a little bit of that C24 in the center. So now, let's look at this detune group. I've got the snare and the toms going into that. going into an H3000, which sounded the cleanest of everything that I tried, with a 40% shift, 0 delay, and a little bit of feedback, 45% feedback. The more feedback you use, you can hear the pitch descend. This is really noticeable on some of Jason's work from the 80s, the increased feedback. I didn't want too much of that. I just wanted a good solid drop. That's without it, by the way. Right? Big difference. And let's hear that without Sound City. Yeah, nothing special, right? So both the subgroup and the Detuned group are going directly into the Sound City channel. And I want to show you what that's adding to both the snare. That's the snare without it. That's the snare with it. So it's giving quite a bit of size to the snare. And the toms. It's without. Right? And I also want to show what the sub is adding to the kick. I do have them turned up quite a bit here in the mix. In the actual mix, we're talking something like this. But it's still quite significant. So yeah, I really just wanted to shine a spotlight on this. I didn't want this to get lost or glossed over in our larger drum overview video, so I wanted to do a dedicated video for it. In the Randy Staub videos, we talked about how Randy pumps 100 hertz into his overheads and room mics to sort of simulate what he liked about having the PA in the room on those tracking sessions for Motley Crue and Metallica and probably other bands as well. I think what Randy does with EQ is a great means to an end, especially in a modern ultra compressed mix. And it's not a knock on Randy, it's just the way modern mixes are and what's expected of them, right? So I think him pumping that EQ works really well for him and the way that he approaches those mixes. But especially for the Soundgarden overview, it doesn't have that type of mix. It's a much more dynamic and organic mix. So I wanted to create this with that in mind, rather than just like slamming the EQ. I mean, I am boosting a bit of lows in the overheads and the room, but still, I wanted to find a way to do this with some, pretty easily accessible plugins. You don't necessarily need an H3000. You could use a stock pitch shifter, something like the Subsynth. I know there's other plugins that do it. I think the Subsynth is probably the best one of that I tried. Any EQ could be used for the crossover. The real signature to me is the Sound City plugin. That's the thing that, to me, is like a must-have. And anybody who's been following my videos knows how much I really love it, especially nowadays when most people are tracking drums in less than ideal environments with less than ideal equipment. Something like Sound City and, the Ocean Way room is cool too. There's, a number of them out there, but you can get so far with digital reverb, but sometimes you want to do something that just sounds different. And yeah, this plugin absolutely does that. So yeah, I hope you guys found this useful. Again, I wanted to put the spotlight on it because I do think it would be very useful to a number of engineers. All right, so please let me know if you try this. Let me know what you think. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. And until next time, take care.